He was shipping your Amazon orders in a warehouse at 17.50 an hour. Then he broke into tech sales with the number one cloud company in the world, AWS. In this in-depth interview with Tyler Schultz, we walk through his inspiring journey to becoming number one at AWS so you can pull off your own tech sales miracle and rise to the top.
Tyler Schultz, you went from Amazon warehouse worker to number one AWS seller, getting promoted 4 times in a year. That's crazy. And I can't wait to unpack your unorthodox, unexpected journey into AWS. But before we get into that, let's get right into tactics. What were some of the factors that made you most successful as a seller at AWS that helped you absolutely blow it out?
Yeah, no, great. Thanks for having me. I think that the tactics for me, looking back on it, was one, sheer like literally just hard work. Is in such a period where we were just in like rapid growth mode that like people that were willing to work hard and lean in, were able to get on the fast track. Two, my technical acumen actually kind of originated out of an insecurity because I like entered into tech with zero background in tech. So I was like, I gotta overcompensate. And then three, really, I feel just God's favor in my life. Just following him, seeking him, not really knowing where I'm going, but him just kind of ordering my steps all throughout.
Amen. So hard work, right? You were unloading trucks in the warehouse before. So and we're going to get into the details of that later, but you're doing things that were much harder than cold calling and the grind that is tech sales. And I know a lot of door-to-door salespeople too that were chased by dogs, held at gunpoint, and they point to that being a lot harder than selling in tech. But I just want to unveil the curtain, if that makes, I don't know if that metaphor makes sense, but
Yeah.
Like, what does hard work look like? What did that specifically look like activity wise in terms of the hours you put in back in that role?
Yeah, when I was in the warehouse, I know we'll dive into it deeper of how I even ended up there, but I was clocking in sometimes midnight, sometimes 2 in the morning, and I'd work until 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, sometimes 8 in the morning. And really my primary role was unloading trucks, unloading trailers at the time. And it was at such an early stage of Amazon's growth that they were growing so rapidly that there weren't even enough pallets in the world to supply Amazon. So like typically in today's day and age, you'd have, I don't know, 24, 30 boxes stacked on a pallet, and you just bring a pallet jack out of the trailer and that's how it'd go. But Amazon was growing so fast that there weren't enough pallets. And so you'd end up with these trailers that sometimes had pallets or sometimes didn't. And the ones that didn't had 20, 30,000 boxes, not on pallets, that had to be individually unloaded. And so literally for 4 or 5, 6 hours a night, I would just be unloading those boxes and was just moving at such a clip that, sometimes I'd do 2, 3, 4 trucks in the time that 3 or 4 people would do one truck on their own or working together. So yeah, it was it was just kind of fast and furious there.
I mean, unpacking thousands and thousands of boxes. And it sounds like when I'd heard your story before, you did it in record time. You're setting records, man. It's crazy. But what did the hard work look like in your role at AWS? Was it a certain number of hours you were working a week? Were you doing a certain number of outbound touches? Of course, you were running sales cycles too. But I just would love for the audience to see, what does hard work look like from a account executive perspective?
Yeah, so it was early at AWS, and I had no background coming into tech sales, and AWS was just, it was such a good product at the time, and they were really the only one in the cloud space being so early. So like we didn't really even have like a formal like sales model built out. So like I was just like, I'm clocking in for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Like I just got to work, whatever that means. So I was sending emails, I was sending phone calls, I was sending LinkedIn messages for some of my bigger, like more strategic prospects. I was figuring out like gifts or random things we could send them. We even then started like merging it to showcasing some of the tech that we actually had in the warehouses, because we started doing like early stage robotics and whatnot. And so we were putting together like warehouse tours for VPs to come and see. So, we did, now that like the tech industry is like much more mature and we look at tech sales, like there's a much more like formulatic way, I guess, to like kind of figure out how to produce. But it was literally just like I was kind of just going with the flow every day of just like I'm gonna send 100 emails today. I'm gonna do 20 calls today. I'm gonna do 50 LinkedIn messages today. Like I just was like, I got to be doing something. I don't know what, but I need to be doing anything.
I've heard it said that volume negates luck, and just putting in the work, man, that's what you were doing. And you figured it out. And hey, life hack, career hack is get onto a wave like cloud computing, riding or rowing in the boat that's the best in the industry. AWS, in this case, that invented the market, that's setting the precedent, the way they operate their warehouses. I love how you were creative and your organization was creative to get executives into the warehouse to have these experiences. So it's insightful to hear that one, you were just simply putting in a lot of work, and I'm sure you figured out what worked over time. I know that you had mentioned that your technical acumen played a role in your success and you got some certification. So just at a high level, like, to what level did you invest in your technical education? And also after that, like, what was the impact in terms of how you were able to converse with prospects? Like, how did that translate to better results?
Yeah, no. So it started with me actually going back to school to get a degree in cybersecurity. That's kind of what kickstarted it all, and we can talk more about that as well. But after I had that, I felt like it still wasn't enough. I just kind of always had this like angst when I was like applying a job that like I don't have the experience that these people are looking for. So I was like, how do I make it like a no-brainer for them? So even with already having that extra degree in cybersecurity, I started doubling down on AWS certifications. So they had like an entry level cloud certification, then they had like a solutions architect certification, and they had machine learning. I think at the time they had about 8 different certifications, and I ended up getting 4 of them, which I didn't even realize because I had no context. Like I had no idea like how advanced that was. Like some of the actual solutions architects and technical account managers for AWS only had 2 or 3, and I had 4.
Wow.
And then coming back, like actually getting into the role, I realized I didn't even need to go that advanced because AWS at the time was like on such the bleeding edge of the cloud industry that even these VPs, execs at these Fortune 100 companies that had been in tech for 15, 20 years barely even knew the cloud anyways. So I ended up doing all these certifications that like, I mean, they were absolutely useful, but like I went so much further than I actually had to, just not knowing that we were really like the ones kind of creating the industry at the time. So for me, it did 2 things. Like one, like I think it definitely broke some barriers down with the customers that like I'm not your normal sales guy. But then 2, like it just did a lot for me being like, you know what, like I can actually talk the talk with these guys. Like I can enter into a lot of situations and still be comfortable and confident in what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you could teach them something new. You could hold your own technically, and yeah, it's cool to hear that you went above and beyond. And partly it was driven by almost an insecurity, which we all have, like, am I enough? And I think all of us as humans have that fundamental question underlying, like that we're asking is, am I enough? But it drove you to be great. And in fact, overcompensate that, like it got you ahead. And I think it just, one thing I've noticed about you, because I met you at Justin J. Johnson's mastermind, which is amazing. And you shared your story, your humility, your authenticity. I think we all can relate to your stories, and the feedback from people, man, in the audience when you shared your story at the mastermind, with people were just like, just raving about it. So another thing that I remember you had mentioned that helped you be successful at AWS and continues to help you succeed in your sales roles today is treating executives like normal human beings. And I think this is an interesting topic to get into because a lot of people, including myself, when I started back in the day, coming out of college as an SDR, put executives on a pedestal. Oh, they got so much more experience, which is true, and that can have a negative impact, you know? So like, how did you approach things where, and how did that manifest itself? Because it's clear that you saw these executives treat them like normal people, and that led to better results, better relationships.
Yeah, I know it's a great question, and I'd say it's, of all the things we talked about, probably paramount to the others of what probably led to my success. Just, one, they have the influence, and two, they have the budget and decision making power. So like, you really just need to get straight to them. But treating them like normal people, I think it really just originated from seeing so many people around me like talk to these people like they walk on water, or they gotta kiss the ground that they walk on, and not in a disrespectful way at all. Like I still honor and revere their position. There's a lot of respect there, of course, um, but I think what I started seeing was that like they're probably spending so much of their days being treated a certain way that they just like literally want to be treated like a normal person. They just want to wear like a t-shirt and eat a hot dog at the ball game, and not be treated like, you know, the CEO of Apple or whatever, right? Like I think they spend so much of their days feeling like the CEO of Apple that they just want to have like an hour a day where they're like, this is just normal, and I can like let my hair down, I can be comfortable. And so that's what I really just aim to do, is like get them to initially start seeing me as a person where like if I call them or I reach out, there's just going to be that comfort there. Like I don't have a different agenda, um, and ultimately like that just ended up creating like great relationships with them, which made it even more easy to do business with them, because there's kind of like this like underlying friendship there almost.
So in terms of building relationships, one, you're who you are, you're authentic, and you're easygoing, you're low key, like in a good way. And I'm just curious, I'm trying to extract the tactics beyond just your natural strengths and personality that other people could replicate. And were you just, I don't know, like having simple conversation? Maybe at times you're enjoying a hot dog at an event, but like what, if you had to analyze yourself and what leads to just the natural connection and making these executives comfortable, like human to human, are there any, like, I guess, tactical things you could share that you do? Maybe it's types of questions you ask and how you approach the conversation.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the biggest thing for me is one, like I have a genuine like love and curiosity about people, so when I'm like asking questions about them, it's not like asking questions about them to like try to get ammunition to like build my like business case for my deal, but I'm asking questions about them because I'm genuinely curious. Like, dude, you're CEO of Apple, like how did you get there? Like to me that's so interesting, like I want to know, and so many of these people have such an amazing like interesting story, um and they love talking about it. So it for me like it stems from like a genuine curiosity, which I think they can see. um and we're taught so much in sales to ask questions, which I am doing, but I'm not asking questions that are like directly benefiting me in the deal, but it's questions that are provoking conversations. And it just allows them to see, again, like you're saying, that authenticity. Like I really do care. I'm really curious of how you ended up there. Because at the end of the day, like I always had in the back of my mind is like, they know I work for Amazon, and they know where they work. Like they know why we're here. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to like tell them that like we're here because I want to sell them something, like they know that, So I think it was just like the fact that I'm not like pushing or like really making the meeting all about that, just like made them open up and kind of break their walls down a bit.
What a great answer. Not that it's about, oh, better answers than others, but because you just gave us the truth of what was behind your success, which is your intention. Just curiosity with no agenda. You're not trying to force outcomes. You're not trying to ask questions in a self-serving way. You literally love people and want to know more about them. Now, the byproduct is over time, it's going to lead to conversations that can lead to business, because they know you're at Amazon, that you
Yeah.
can help. You're the best cloud infrastructure company in the world. So that was a great insight on just the importance of our authentic, curious unattached intention,
Yeah.
right? And also, I think you pulled out one of the greatest questions you could ever ask anyone, especially a leader or a mentor, like just basically asking about how they got there, their path to success. I'm curious, you must figure out eventually about their kids and the upcoming fencing tournament and all their hobbies, that they like race cars. I'm making this up, but it's
Yeah.
like, how does that end up unfolding? Again, this is natural stuff, but I have an analytical mind, and it's kind of fun to like look at, like kind of dissect how it goes about. But like, do you just kind of find that typically you'd uncover the personal nuggets over time? Would it happen in that first conversation beyond just their path to success?
Yeah, funny enough, I try to treat all of them almost as like a first date,
Yeah.
and I'm just trying to like learn about them, like on your first date, you don't want to be talking about marriage and all this crazy stuff. Like you just want to get to know them. And so same in like sales, I just was like, again, they already know I work for AWS. I don't need to tell them again, like they know why we're here. But like at least right now, I want them to know like I want to have a relationship with you. Like I want to have trust there. I want to enjoy working with you. That was my biggest thing is like, you know, um, I want to if we're both going to be doing 60 hours a week at our jobs, like I want us to both enjoy it. Um, and so my way of like trying to kick off a relationship was like trying to get him to dinner. Um, First time I meet someone, I want to get them to dinner because
Beautiful.
like if they say yes to that, then it means they're like kind of seeing it from the perspective of I am like, all right, like I'm open to having a relationship. And then yeah, when we get there, like it just flows really. I would say most of them end up going way longer than we thought. All of a sudden we get out to dinner, it's 2.5, 3 hours went by. And it's because exactly that. Like we start talking about the kids, we start talking about the things that they like to do. Which is also because I do want to know, like, if we're gonna have a conversation about our deal, um, for me it doesn't need to be over Zoom. Like if you like hockey, then let's go have that conversation at a hockey game. Like I
Mm,
appreciate you giving me my time, giving me your time.
so good, man. And I was just talking with a founder that I'm working with, he's through my network. He's now asked to sell. I'd say the only people who sell more than salespeople are probably founders. They got to sell their employees on join in the organization, bought in the mission, and raise funds for their company, and then also win clients. And he's local in Austin. I'm like, dude, if possible, get every first meeting in person over like coffee, lunch, or dinner. So it's cool to hear you kind of validate that too. There's nothing like sharing a meal, breaking bread, and getting to have open, authentic conversations. And one other thing, Tyler, from that has been my experience in tech sales, that I'm sure, like you, I can tell you're a king of relationships. It's pretty special when like you do happen to get a business partnership, but the relationships with the executive or whatever level they're at transcend business, and you just have a friendship. You have a mentor that you take with you for the rest of your life, and that's not dramatic. It's how it goes. So, have you found that some of your relationships now, they're just even if like they're I don't know, like you're gonna have these relationships for life. Has that been your experience in some cases?
No, you're hitting the nail on the head. Like I kind of got chills a little bit because I started having a vision of this probably like a year and a half ago where I just found like I spent a lot of time working, and I like work, so like I want to be doing it. It's not like I'm a slave to it, um, and but as we kind of mentioned too, like being a man of faith, like I'm spending a lot of time in church ministry as well, and I'm looking at all the areas I'm spending time, and I'm like, you know what, like how do I like combine all this really? And so that was kind of like the vision I had like 18 months ago was like, you know what, like I want to try to like layer all this together. Like I want the people I do business with to also be my friends. I want them to be also the people that like I pray and believe with. I want them to like be a part of like my life that we go and do things together with. And I can like genuinely say like today that's very much the case. Like most of the people I golf with consistently are my customers. Most of the people I do fun things with, concerts or ball games, are my customers. But
Wow.
also like the people that I'm like intimately knowing about their lives. They have a surgery or death in the family or something. Like I'm again, my customers that I'm praying for and like, trying to comfort, or like we're so ingrained in like every area of their life now. And it's amazing for me because like that was something I really wanted, but I felt like really pushed the boundaries of what we've been taught in this industry.
If you're watching this video and you're looking to launch your six-figure tech sales career, whether that's breaking in with a top company for the first time, upgrading to a better company on your tech sales journey, or crushing your metrics as an SDR or account executive to get that next promotion, then feel welcome to book time with me at my Calendly link, linked in the description of this video, to explore our tech sales accelerator programs and how they can help you win. Just like they're helping Max launch his career at Rubrik. He just got an offer. He was so pumped about that. Helping Tony upgrade from Workday to a more exciting Series D SaaS company that's scaling. He landed an AE role and he's really excited about it. And helping Nick crush his quota as the #1 account executive in his specific organization at Splunk. If you're ready to take your tech sales career to the next level, I look forward to seeing you on the call.
You're using tech sales as a vehicle to create the life that you want, where business overlaps with fun and with faith. That is very cool. And one other key to your success has been God's grace, his favor. We're both men of faith, and it's something that we talk about often in the channel, and probably unsurprisingly, as faith comes up. And it's a common pattern I've seen with people that are very successful. Faith is really first and foremost for them. Like I have a mentor, let's C-level at a big multi-billion-dollar company, and he's like, faith comes first, then wifey, then the kids, then work. And it's interesting to see the order of operations, and yet he's so wildly successful in business. So with that in mind, brother, didn't you have, like, I thought you told me, maybe it was the group, I think it might have been us. Tell me if I'm wrong. Like there was a customer where you brought up faith in the meeting. And like, am I off? Like, it's at like a C-level and that you really connected, and even like your boss at the time was like, whoa, like, what are you doing? But it ended up being like actually really authentically connecting you.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's been something weird for me. Like when I've been like all in my faith for the last like 4 years or so.
Yes.
But the first year of it, maybe even year and a half, I didn't really know. I kind of fell into that stigma of like, hey, don't like really mix these things. And then I just kind of like kept felt this like inner like push, right? Of like, no, like you need to like, really bring this here. And so I kind of started like casually like dropping it. And then I'd say probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I just like blew the door wide open. I'm like, you know what? Anytime I get like a natural chance to like talk about it and share it, I'm gonna. So then those same dinners that we're talking about where, I'm with customers for 2 or 3 hours and we're just talking about life and whatnot. Like I started sharing my faith and my testimony and, my own walk with God. And surprisingly, like in all those instances, people responded in a completely different way than I ever thought. And like to your one example, we had just done an executive business review for the whole C-suite of like one of the top 3 largest gaming companies in the world, right? So like handful of C-level execs, handful of VPs there, my VP, a couple other from our side, and we're at dinner after. And I wasn't actually eating at the time. I was fasting. And all the executives are like, why aren't you eating? I'm like, oh, I'm fasting. And they're like, for what? And I go on to tell them, and people are like wanting to like question it and pry into it. And my boss is trying to like kind of like elbow me like, hey, like back it off. And we just went even further with it. And come to find out, like the one of the C-level executives from the customers, she's like, I literally just left the church last week. She's like, I've been part of the church for like 30 years. I made the decision last week to leave. And she's like, it's crazy. Like 3 days later, like you're in front of me, like so boldly proclaiming your faith. And I was like, well, I don't think that's a coincidence at all, you know? And I'm not kidding. Like I probably got 50 stories just like that, where like
Wow.
I never would have thought the person in front of me needed to hear like what I was sharing.
it's a reminder of the power of being who we are, authenticity. And in fact, like what a, not that this is the end goal, but what a differentiator in terms of how you show up when you're being who you truly are. And in the case of this person, they were, it was like a signal from God, you know, and
Yeah.
you were able to really connect on a deeper level. Yeah. But again, it comes down to, you have no agenda. You are curious about people. You're authentically expressing yourself, but amazing relationships, great business opportunities are the byproduct. Now, in terms of God's grace playing a role in your success, I'm pretty sure you told me, we won't mention names of deals or companies, but didn't you have like a massive deal at AWS that just like there was just God's favor involved, right? And I'm sure I've had many of those too, and you probably had others. But was it? I think there's one you had told me about. Like, if you want, share some of the context of how that, without mentioning the company, like how that played a role, because God's favor and God's grace does play a role in our success in business and in sales.
Yeah, no, 100%. I got so many, but this was really like my first one where I was like, whoa, you know. So I was pretty early to, like I said, being kind of all in with my face. So I'm probably only 6, 8 months kind of walking like that, just like fully committed to it. And this is, you know, pretty early in my time at AWS, and I had just gone through like a number of promotions and whatnot. But again, like not having any experience at all. Like I didn't come from enterprise sales. I didn't come from field sales. You know, I just didn't have the background at all. And so my promotions were just like kind of like different tiers of like BDR or inside sales rep, you know. Um, and then I get a phone call one day where they say, hey, like our largest cloud account that isn't a global customer just had like a principal spot open up. And we want you to effectively run the entire account. And I was like, me? Like I got zero enterprise field level skills, you know, and they're like, yeah, like it basically come from the person who was principal over it was like a mentor of mine from a few years prior. And when she was leaving, they're like, who would you recommend? Like, you know the customer so well. And she's like, Tyler. And then they like kind of like looked at my profile because it's internal rec, you know, and they're like, him? You know, because like they saw like my experience in the warehouse, and they saw that like I'd really only been in like outbound sales or like BDR type of roles, not even like full field level enterprise role. And they're like, you want to basically take them like 4 levels of promotion? And she's like, yeah. And so I had an interview with the hiring manager, and he's like, this is weird, it doesn't make any sense, but I definitely think you should be on this account. And so I went from basically a BDR supporting a couple enterprise reps to them being a principal account executive over, at the time, the largest AWS cloud in North America that wasn't global. So it was genuinely like 4 or 5 levels of promotion. Like the person that had the position before me was, you know, like 12 years of experience in enterprise tech sales. I really had like none technically because I wasn't doing the full cycle at the time.
And you built that relationship over the course of a few years. That mentor immediately thought of you, and I imagine through your curiosity, your authenticity, and really being who you are, you built such a strong relationship where they're like, clearly Tyler is the person. And in spite of the odds on paper, you up leveled multiple times to get that role. So it's really powerful. And I guess one thing the audience knows, we all know, is like mentors can really help us. They can help lift us up on the path. And how did that mentorship unfold? Like, were you aligned to this rep? Or like, did you reach out, just, you didn't have a shared territory, but you reached out internally and happened to find them as a mentor? It's just interesting, like, because people ask me, Tyler, like, I have some good mentors. Like, how did you get your mentor? And some of them I've prospected and I'd had to be persistent. But what was the case for this mentor? How did you find them?
Yeah, it's so funny, just talking about it because like I can't like emphasize enough like how early Amazon and AWS it was. Like we were literally just kind of like creating this like new frontier, right? And so
Yeah.
like there was just a bunch of money coming in and we were just in growth mode. And so like everyone's just kind of going their own direction, building out programs. I don't know if you know like the leadership principles at Amazon, but like one of them's like take ownership, like have a bias for action. So they very much encourage people just like going and building these things. And if they work, they work. If not, they don't. So like someone in HR or people or whatever like decided like, oh, like we should build this like mentorship, like social network type of thing.
Yep.
And I was just bored, like on my lunch break when I was working the warehouse at like 3 in the morning, like what else is there to do at 3 in the morning? And so I'm just kind of like browsing all the internal websites and I see this like literally like a social network for mentorship at Amazon. And so I just started reaching out to people and she's really the only one that responded. And she's like, yeah, I'll mentor you. Everyone else had said no because I was still in the warehouse at the time.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't done with my cybersecurity degree yet. And she's like, yeah, like I'll mentor you. Like this would be like a really cool like rags to riches type of story. Um, and sure enough, it ended up being exactly that. But so
Yeah.
it was literally just this internal program that I don't. And it was so funny because I ended up being like the poster child for that mentorship program because I don't think anyone even really ended up using the social network. Is a nice thing on the resume, like, oh, I'm a mentor at Amazon, but like no one actually was. And so I think I was like really at the time one of the few that like actually came out of it that had something tangible happen.
Man, your faith paired with work ethic, taking action, and persistence led to an amazing rags to riches story, true underdog story to elevate to number one at AWS at a very exciting time, 4-time promotions, covering largest account that wasn't a global account, right? But one of the biggest cloud installs in the country and probably the world. Amazing story, man. And speaking of stories, let's get into story time. We got a lot of actionable tactics on how to actually become a top performer in tech sales. So let's talk about your journey getting here or getting to that role. And what's interesting for the audience sake, we might not get to it today. And I look forward to future conversations as you move to, you were at Confluent, now you're at Evitech, a great opportunity. But we'll save that for another time. Let's focus on the journey to AWS. You were in finance before and you built a great career and then you gave it up, right? So tell us about how that all went down.
Yeah, so I mean, it was really the only thing ever on my mind. Like I was in college at Boise State, and I had an internship early on, just finishing my second year, and that was over with a wealth management fund over in New York, and I got there during the summer, and I'm like, this is for me. Like this is all I want to do, and I started talking to my advisor and what's not. I'm like, I need to graduate as fast as possible. Like I got to get to work. And I already had some credits and whatnot from APs in high school, and so we ended up tweaking a few things, and I was able to end up graduating in 2.5 years. And so I just went straight to New York and started working in finance. And I don't know, 2.5 years went by or so, and I loved it. I was good at it. I had a gift for it. But I was noticing a lot of the things around me. My leaders were on their like second or third marriage. Not super strong family values. A lot of substances going on in New York. And I was just like, gosh, this career moves fast, especially in New York. Like, 5 years goes by, 10 years go by, 15 years go by, and I'm like stuck basically. Um, because you kind of get the golden handcuffs there as you start acquiring bigger portfolios and whatnot. It's really hard to walk away from. And they actually ended up posing me with basically a track to like I guess be the succession plan for their business. They probably had like 3 to 5 years left. And so they sit me down one day at dinner and they're like, we want to set you up. We want to start like, really integrating you so that in like 3 years you're ready to take the business from us, and then we'll build out an exit plan, you know?
Wow.
And so it really started to get me thinking. I'm like, oh gosh, if I do this, like I can't ever leave, you know what I mean? And I'm like early mid 20s at the time. And so I kind of just started, I don't want to say I like panicked, but I was like, whoa, this is big.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like in parallel, my grandparents had gotten sick. You know, both of them had got diagnosed with, you know, early onset Alzheimer's. And you know, my grandparents had meant everything to me. You know, I spent so much time with them growing up, and I just love them. So, you know, that was kind of going on in the background. And so, to make a long story short, I basically just decided, I was like, look, I want to keep working here. I like what I'm doing. I'm not ready to be your succession plan, because of the respect I have for you guys. I don't want to take it and then 2 years after, like, decide that this isn't for me. So like I'm just gonna politely decline right now. And I also want to like go home and take care of my grandparents. But I still want to trade and manage a portfolio for you guys. And so I thought I could do both. And after like 3 months of taking care of my grandparents, it was just too much. I couldn't make both people happy. I couldn't be enough for my grandparents, and I couldn't be trading and managing the portfolio at the same way. So ended up um, discontinuing that and just focusing on my grandparents. And after taking care of them full time for, I don't know, 5, 6 months, I started going a little crazy. You know, I'm not leaving the house like at all. Like they need full time care. They need, you know, help bathing, groceries, food, you know, even just kind of moving around the house. And I was like, I gotta do something, you know. So I'm just finding jobs online, and you know, I need something flexible. I need something at weird hours, and I want something with people because I miss seeing people really. And so I found this like Amazon job that said like no resume, no interview, no schedule. And I was just calling them. I'm like, is this real? And they're like, yeah. They're like, we just need bodies. And I'm like, what? When? You know? And they're like, can you be here tomorrow at midnight? I was like, yeah. And I show up, and there's this HR guy at the door, and we're like, what's going on here? And he's like, no interview, no resume, like put this vest on and like go see your manager out there. And it literally was that. There was no interview, there was no resume. Like there's probably 150 people on the warehouse floor a night, and part of them are homeless, some of them are getting like you know, leave from prison to like go do work, you know, and then they're going back to jail at night. Like there's people, it's their second or third job. Like it is a wild crew. And so I walk up to the manager, and I'm like, I'm here for my shift, I guess. And he's like, all right, well, we need those trucks unloaded. And I went and did that, and it ended up working, you know. So it ended up being, you know, sometimes it varied a little bit. It's all like really depend on when the trucks arrive at the warehouse. But I usually start around midnight, 1 a.m. I'd work till 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And it's only 5 minutes from my grandparents' house. So I'd be there back home by like 6:30 when they're waking up, wake them up and have coffee and do their thing, you know, and just find time for like an afternoon nap, and did that pretty much 3 or 4 days a week for probably like 6 months. Yeah.
Wow. So you're barely sleeping, and now it's 3 to 4 days a week. So you had a few days where you could get a normal sleep.
Yeah. And it was flexible schedule in both ways. Like, you know, sometimes like I may do 6 days a week just because they got like a mad rush. Like they'd be able to see the volume that
Yeah.
they're projecting because of the online traffic coming from Amazon. It wasn't same day delivery at the time. It was like 2 or 3 day, you know? So like on Monday, if they saw a bunch of orders, they knew that Wednesday and Thursday were going to be heavy, you know? So some days like it might be a 5 or 6 day work week. And then other days it'd be easier for me to do like 3 days. But yeah, primarily is on average, probably 4 days a week.
So the audience, when they see this title from Amazon worker to #1 AWS seller, what they don't realize is that you went from finance on a fast track, taking over a company, to then Amazon worker with probably some homeless people, some criminals, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, and then to, so it's like
Yeah.
what a journey. And it just, I have so much admiration for you being there for your grandparents and your heart of service for your family. It's clear, just even the way you said it, like there was just no other option. Like that was what mattered to you. That's where your values were. Then you went a little crazy. You needed a little something to do, and you show up at this place. And from what I remember, you worked your ass off. So it's like, just you kind of put in perspective. But I just want a reminder, like, how many thousands of packages were you working with? And you were really good, weren't you? You're probably like doing better than multiple people at once. Like put that in perspective.
Yeah, you know, I went through waves at it where like, you know, originally I just kind of showed up just like not in an irresponsible way of like not wanting to work hard, but I mostly showed up just to get out of the house and kind of meet some people.
Yeah.
And then I went through a second wave where I was like, this job actually really sucks doing it like slow. You know, because you're literally inside of a trailer at like 1, 2 in the morning. It really sucks to go slow. Like it's boring. So I was like, you know what, like I'm just gonna try to work really hard and like see how, like if I can break my own records of like how long it takes me to unload a trailer, you know.
Yeah.
And so some of these trailers, like they may have, they try to like segment the trailers. Like some have big boxes, some have small boxes. They try to kind of manage it in that way. And so like on average, they probably have 9,000, 10,000 boxes in there because it's these 52-foot long trailers. So, you know, all the way from like floor to the ceiling of the trailer for 52 feet is just boxes, like shoebox size, you know? And so I would just be unloading them as fast as possible. And yeah, I ended up just being like number one in the facility. And then they started doing like regional rankings and whatnot. And, you know, they started giving us like these devices to like track like your production as an individual. And so like my role was like loader. And so like then I started seeing like the rankings in California. I'm like, oh my gosh, like some guy in Ontario, California is unloading more than me. Like I gotta beat him. And it just became this like I just try to like gamify it because it honestly is like the worst job ever. It sucks. And but I just try to gamify it and make fun with it. And then, you know, kind of my third season or like iteration there was like, all right, I'm at Amazon. I don't really know why. Like I'm very early in my faith. Like I'm kind of believing like God's got some sort of reason behind it. And so in like my third like iteration there, I was like, I'm here for some purpose. I don't know exactly what. Um, but I'm just gonna like honor this and steward this and kind of see like where God takes it, you know. And he ended up taking it this like crazy direction that I never thought when I ended up applying there.
You're a high performer, and you brought that to, you know, use it loading, right? I keep you
Yeah.
loading or wait, loading, right?
So they call it loader, but you're technically unloading.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I keep mixing up, but you brought that high performance mindset, the competitive edge to unloading, seeing the person in California that was ahead of you, and just a great reminder to be a custodian of the opportunities in front of us, even if we don't think it's the best opportunity today. It plants seeds for tomorrow, and it is inherently a good thing to give it our best. It honors God as well. So I think that's really inspiring that you gamified it, and that's such a good lesson to make things suck less. If you got a cold call block, you got a prospect in your job, gamify it, make it suck a little less. So
Yeah.
now we got to talk about the next phase in the unpredictable journey. Like what was that turning point that and that ultimately led you in the direction of AWS?
Yeah. So, you know, 90% of the warehouse has the same schedule. They show up at the same time, they leave at the same time, they have the same lunch break. I necessarily, as a loader, don't. I may show up at the same time, but you know, I may have a different lunch break just because it's so dependent on when the trucks show up. You know, a truck may hit a little traffic coming from one of the regional facilities down to our facility and shows up a little later than we expect. So my lunch is just pushed back. And so more often than not, I'd be having my 30-minute break alone at like 2:30, 3 in the morning. And so I'm sitting in the break room by myself one day, and you would know your ranking in the warehouse by what color vest you had. So orange was like nobody, yellow, like you were kind of like not a shift manager, but you're kind of like overseeing a certain role. And then you'd have black, which was a shift manager, and it kind of went on and on. But like in L7, L8, like you're running like a whole region. So if there's like 15 facilities for Amazon in Southern California, you got a purple vest. And again, going back to like what I said earlier, like I don't like treat these people like they walk on water. Like I respect them and I have honor for them, but like I'm not like, oh, whoa, you know? And so it's like 3 in the morning one day and I'm just like on my lunch break and this guy in a purple vest walks in and he's like, what are you doing here? He's like, shouldn't you be out on the floor? And I was like, no, 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 like I'm a loader. I just finished my truck. I got like 20 minutes to the next one. Like I'm off. And he's like, oh, okay, sorry, sorry. And he's like, what's your name? I was like, Tyler. And this is when they started doing like the regional dashboards and stuff. And he's like, oh, Schultz. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I saw your name like, at the top for the last couple of weeks. He's like, great work. Like, do you have any tips or anything? That like, is there anything that we can replicate to make everyone load the way that you do? I was like, honestly, like, no, it's just kind of hard work, And he's like, well, what are you motivated by then? I kind of started giving him my background. I was like, well, I used to do this, but I just came home to take care of my grandparents, and so I kind of got this going on. And he, he was just like, dude, whoa, like if that's your background, like you should not be doing this anymore. Like you need to be doing something else. And I was like, well, this is what it is right now. Like I can't, I really try to honor my commitments. Like I can't handle much more than this right now while I'm taking care of my grandparents. And so to make a long story short, he's like, I'm gonna figure out something for you. And he comes back like a week later and he's like, look, like, how do you feel about going back to school? And I was like, well, for what? And he's like, cybersecurity. And I was like, what am I going to do with that? And he's like, well, I don't know if you know anything about AWS, but it's this like new division of Amazon that we're building. It's growing really fast. And there's just like not enough people with a technical background to be able to support all that they're trying to do. So we'll pay for your school on the condition that you go be like an engineer for AWS. And I like did a little background on what these engineers make and whatnot. I'm like, oh, yeah, sign me up. So I go back to school and then, doing it all, like taking care of my grandparents, going to school, working, because that was their condition too, is like I still had to work in the warehouse. It was all a lot. And so I called my advisor at that school and I was like, I got to graduate. I can't do this. It was supposed to be 18 months. I ended up doing it in like 7 months. And so I graduate and they made it seem like it was this formal program that like when you graduate, you get out and like, bam, that job's just waiting for you. So I see him when I get out. I'm like, thank you so much for paying for my school and getting me in the thing. Like, now what? And he's like, well, I don't know. He's like, this program's like so new. Like, he's like, I don't really know where it goes from here. Like, you should talk to someone in HR. And in the warehouses, you had HR that wasn't really part of HR for Amazon because they had to be much more skilled in like injuries and, workman's comp because of the type of stuff that happens in a warehouse. And so I go into HR one day and she's like, I don't know anything about that. I'm like, well, can you connect me with someone at like corporate Amazon that knows? And it ended up going nowhere. And that's where it ended up leading me down this path of like, okay, well, I got this degree. I got to figure something out. And I started just, we had built this internal messaging system at Amazon. It was like Slack before Slack. It's called Chime. And I just realized that like, again, we were so early at Amazon, like there was no guardrails. Like I could have chimed Bezos at the time. Like there's no blockers or anything. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can chime anyone. And so I started seeing like these job postings at AWS and seeing the hiring manager, and I just started chiming the hiring manager. I was like, look, I just graduated, this and that, blah, blah, blah. No one cared. I probably chimed like 80 people. And then it was at that point where I was like, I got no experience. They're not answering me. Like, I got to figure something out. So I started getting those AWS certifications. A couple months later, I come back to it. I message like another 30 hiring managers. And I finally, after like 100 messages, get to this one person. And she's like, it sounds great, And I don't think she really looked at my resume because I attached it. And she's like, you sound like a perfect candidate. Like, you're already at Amazon. I don't have to go through all this HR, like 7-stage interview process. Like, great. She's like, let's set up a time. So I get her on the phone and I start telling her about my background. She's like, "Oh, whoa." She's like, "You really don't have any experience in, technical enterprise sales." I was like, "No." I was like, "But look, like I used to manage like high net worth portfolios. Like I know how to talk to like sophisticated people. Technically, I've got the chops. Like you can see it. I got 4 certifications. I just did this degree. Like, and I was like, and I work hard. So I was like, yes, I don't have the experience, but like I promise I'm not gonna let you down." And and I didn't realize it at the time because I was just so foreign to AWS, but like she was like VP of all enterprise sales for pretty much everything east of Denver, and like she rolled straight into like our SVP of global sales, and I had no clue, and so this girl ends up taking a flyer on me. She just writes me back after thinking about it over the weekend. She's like, "Look, I'm gonna have a couple people interview you just to make sure that they like believe in you the way that I do. But I feel really good about this." And so I ended up crushing the interviews, and then she comes back to me. She's like, "Everything on paper says I shouldn't do this. It doesn't make sense." She's like, "I'm a little nervous, but like I want to take a flyer on you. I want to take a chance." And I was like, I promise I'm not gonna let you down, And and so I ended up starting, and I was so motivated by her doing that, that like even the other things fueling me, like I went even that much harder because I was like, I can't let her have a blemish on like what she did for me. And it ended up being the exact opposite of that. I ended up being like the poster child for her, where
Yeah.
she's getting promoted based on some of the stuff that I did, and it ended up being this like amazing story where we both like truly really benefited from what happened.
What a story, man. You told her I might not have the exact experience, but I can talk with people who are sophisticated, and you leverage your past experience in finance. I work really hard. I have the technical chops. I put in the work there. And I felt it was heartfelt. I'm not going to let you down.
Yeah,
And then follow through. And it's just a great example of how we can help directly impact our bosses. You got your boss promoted. That's special. And this is great for the people trying to break in AWS or break into tech for the first time. There's so many great lessons from your journey. And it's such an inspiring story. And of course, this whole conversation started with the next phase, which is how did you absolutely blow it out of the water and make a name for yourself at AWS? Now, we're starting to come up on time, and I know we can fill multiple podcasts. I look forward to future conversations. But as we round out, I'm just going to ask you broadly about, the rest of your career and any other like just high level career advice that might come to mind. And so you went on to Confluent, and I know there were lessons learned, and we don't have the time to unpack Confluent. Now you're at Evitech and you're learning a lot of lessons. So I'm just going to ask you more broadly for some of the next, when you look at the next phases of your career leading up to today, are there any other key lessons that will help people be more successful in their career? That are kind of their messages or lessons that you really stand for that you want the audience to know?
yeah, no, it's a great question. I think just be passionate and be obsessed. Not like in the sense of like making work an idol or like getting your identity from like your success, but like when I say be passionate, be obsessed about it, like um inside the little things, like when you're at a customer dinner, like be passionate, be obsessed about um learning that person, like having a genuine conversation with them, like I think just like maintaining that excitement, that passion, like you said, like with cold callings, like kind of gamifying it in a way, but like again, having like a passion towards it, like this like level of expectation of like, like today something's gonna happen. I don't know what, but today something's gonna happen. Like today is gonna be the day I get that guy on the phone. Today is gonna be the day where that deal gets another 10% further. Or this dinner is the dinner that is gonna open the doors for me. And I think having that level of excitement and that level of expectation also creates that passion for it. And for me, it helps me be like super present in what I'm doing. Like I got 2 hours at this dinner with this guy. I'm going to treat it like it's, the last 2 hours I'm ever going to have with him. You know what I mean? And that for me, I think ties into a lot of the things that you were saying too, right? Is like being a good custodian, being a good steward. But I just feel now more than ever, there's so many distractions. There's so many like own individual personal agendas. There's so many like quotas. Like there's so many things like trying to drive us different directions. And like it is so hard to be present these days where like that's like really my focus personally right now is like I want to be so present for absolutely everything. Like if it's a 30-minute Zoom meeting, I want to be present. I want to get every single thing out of it. If it's a 2-hour dinner with a customer, like I want to get every single thing out of it. And I don't even know what I'm going to get out of it, but I just had this expectation like something's going to come from it. Like I'm going to get a new friend, I'm going to get a new mentor, I'm going to get a deal, I'm going to talk about Jesus to someone. Like something's coming from this. I don't know what, but something is.
Oh, I got chills, man. That's something I needed to hear. That's
I
something
need I need to hear it. I gotta say it to
needs to
myself
hear.
every morning.
That's something a VP needs to hear. That's something a CEO needs to hear. We all need to hear it. Being present. And in a way, what pops up for me is like, what could go right? What could come from this? That next business opportunity, that next job, that next connection, the love of your life. I'm a single guy, so the audience knows this pops up from time to time, that theme, but it's just what a message. And I think that is the message that we take home and that we end on. But thank you for sharing your presence with us today. Because so many good things are going to come from this conversation as it floats out in the YouTube sea, on Spotify and Apple, as we shout it out on LinkedIn. I know it's going to light a spark in people, and it lit a spark in me, man. So the only thing I would ask you to end is, paint a little bit of your vision going forward. You kind of gave us a taste of how work is marrying together with faith and play, and you're building great relationships, but your faith is going to continue to grow and expand. But it's always a fun thing with guests too, is to paint a picture of the future for you. Like what are you building next?
Yeah, no. It's good for me to even talk about too because like I'm as I've like reflected on all this, like it's just another chapter and iteration I can take some of that stuff from. But as I look forward, I think for me, like I feel like I'm really finally in the place that God wanted me to be in. I think He needed me in the warehouse for a season. I think He needed me at AWS for a season. I think He needed me at Confluent for a season. But I think like now, like I genuinely feel like this is the next 10, 15, 20, maybe forever years at this place. Um, and this will probably be another discussion for us. But what really kind of pushed me out of Confluent was I felt God doing so many things, and there wasn't enough room for it, right? I was kind of boxed in. I felt like a shark in a fish tank. Like I felt all these things that God was doing, but there's too many boundaries, too many restrictions. And I come here, and it's like my eyes are open again. I can sell any software I want. I can go after any customer I want. Like, and that for me is like so liberating. It's like anything God wants to do, like the guy sitting next to me on the plane may be the CEO of a certain company, or you
Mm,
know someone from Justin's mastermind or something may have a software, and I can help sell it, or like whatever God wants to do, like He can actually do now. Like I've gotten a lot of the red tape out of the way, and that's kind of the vision I have, is like that same hard work I've had, that same passion that I've had, um, but now like I feel like I've kind of graduated from the training that He needed me to go through to be ready for where I'm at now. And so I just have this vision of kind of it all coming together. Certain people that I worked with at AWS that I can bring onto my team and build like a pod out at Evotech. Certain customers where we had an amazing relationship, but Confluent didn't really meet their needs, but we had an amazing relationship, so it was like tough, right? And now I can sell them whatever they want or need. I just feel like I finally have like the doors wide open for all the opportunities. So, yeah, just trying to get excited and like re-energized to that, and just like comfortable with the fact that like whichever direction God wants to take it, He can now.
wow. Yeah, what a great note to end on. And just for more context of the audience, like you sold at Confluent, it's a specific type of solution, like a data solution. It solves specific problems. And you might build an amazing relationship with someone, but you don't have the fit to like meet their needs. It's not needed. But now you're at Evatech, which keep me honest, but like a reseller that can help. You can resell all types of technology across the industry. You can solve all types of problems. And again, I'm kind of dumbing it down. So you can literally now leverage your superpower of building relationships with so many great people, and you've got something for everyone. Like the sky is the limit. And so that's a good insight in our, as we look at our tech sales career, eventually you can evolve to a role selling for a partner and a reseller that allows you to it's like truly entrepreneurial. It's the sky's the limit. And that's actually what I did in my career too, as Oracle to Google Cloud. And then I went to a reseller with a focus on cloud and SaaS. And man, was that the most rewarding experience, where I grew the most, built the most relationships, and oh, it was awesome. So is there anything you want to add, by the way, because I'm just my secondhand perspective and observation, but any other context you want to add? Otherwise, man, this has been an amazing conversation.
No, you nailed it. Like, you know, when I was interviewing the CEO of Evatech, I was kind of asking him certain questions, you know, like, you know, a little PTSD from Confluent and AWS of like only being able to do certain things. So I'm like, well, can I do this or can I do that? He's like, Tyler, like, if you want to resell a box of pencils, slap a little margin on it and go resell it. He's like, I don't care. He's like, just go make us money. And that was when I knew I was at the right place, you know, because I'm married to the customer pretty much. Like, I have a relationship with the customer. I have their trust. We like doing business together, and I don't necessarily want to dictate, you know, all the directions that their companies want to go. You know, if they want to move off a certain technology, like, fine, like, giddy up. I'm going to help you do it. You know, if they want to buy more of a certain technology, like, you know, basically tell me how high to jump and I want to jump with you, you know, is kind of really the place I'm at. So, you know, we have 900 different softwares we can resell. You know, we obviously have hardware and networking, you know, but even outside of that, like I already did this with another customer where we don't already have a relationship with them. And we went ahead and created a partnership agreement to go ahead and be able to bring in just this like one-off niche solution that a customer needed. So that's really like where I'm at now, is I feel like for years I've been trying to, like, you know, undeniably do what was right for the customer. But it was always tough because I had only the software I had, or I had only like the tool that I had. But now, like, 110%, I can do exactly what the customer wants.
Gosh, what a cool example of where things can go on the tech sales path that I think a lot of the audience wouldn't have even been aware of. The possibility of selling for a company that can resell really anything, where you can truly meet the customer's need and give them exactly what they need, and you're not confined to one solution. So, Tyler, I feel shot out of a cannon. I feel grateful to have had the opportunity to have this conversation and amplify your inspiration. You're the man. I can't wait to have you on again in the future as your career keeps evolving. And to the audience, I respect you guys for investing in your personal and professional development and tuning into this conversation. And to your success in tech sales and in life, happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one.